Okay, live. Once again, live. Hello. Let me just bring up the chat here on my other device. There we go. Hawaii Dealer, Iron Fist, Jellyfish, James Mason. Hello, my friends. Hello on this Friday night. And we're going to talk about all kinds of fingerprinting tonight and explaining what all this means, because people are always confused when I come up with a new video and it's a new term and they're bringing up comparisons between device fingerprinting and browser fingerprinting, thinking it's the same thing. It is not. There's a similar issue, by the way. Somebody just brought up again in a chat. Hello, AMG Phillips. And that's the difference between a MAC address and an IP address, which are completely different threats. Completely different. So, yeah, maybe that'll be addressed in another video. But something that confuses a lot of people, especially beginners. What's the difference between tracking an IP address and tracking a MAC address? And what's the threat for each, which is not even connected. They're actually two separate threats. But that is not the topic of tonight. And that is not the topic of tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about browser fingerprinting. M1 Midnight. Hello, Midnight. Soy Doomer Low IQ High. Dennis Choi. No, I did not have any adult beverages. Lately, it's been kind of difficult. You know, what am I supposed to do? Drink by myself? I mean, it's not like you're sitting in a restaurant having a drink, you know, you're like at home. So if I'm drinking at home, I feel like I'm, you know, wanting to be an alcoholic. So it's boring to drink at home. When I'm at home, I just work. So hello, Goth Elf. Welcome. Okay, so again, to repeat the topic of tonight, we're going to talk about the difference between device fingerprinting and browser fingerprinting. And some of you know that I just released a video on device fingerprinting, and I actually have many videos on browser fingerprinting, which continue to confuse people till today. I have several videos on browser fingerprinting, and it's mentioned in many other videos, but two specific videos talking about browser fingerprinting, and it's still not understood. And on top of that, now I have one called device fingerprinting, and people are asking me questions that relate to browser fingerprinting. Felix Culpa, Iron Fist. So we're going to distinguish what what's between these two things, because they're kind of different and they have different kinds of threats. Okay, so to begin with, if you're liking the video at some point, then you may want to hit that like button there. I'm going to have to keep mentioning that because people come in late to the video and I don't mention it, and then 3 hours later, the hundreds of people that came by don't leave a like or dislike. So please leave a like or dislike so that the algorithm can judge us fairly, because that's how it judges. You know, it's by your behaviors, by how many comments you post, how many times you hit the like or dislike. They actually then gauge if the video is something they need to share or not. So lately, the live streams have been doing well, even in replay. So that's excellent. So usually in the past, the live streams don't get much attention because they're very long. So for those of you who are coming into this and saying, boy, he really drags us on, it's because it's a live stream. And it's a live stream is about interaction. So I get to talk to each and every one of you, and react to your questions, which means there's no fixed script that I go on. We kind of play it by ear. So if you want the short version, then don't watch the live stream, watch the short videos. Live streams are very, very specific. Okay, so First time to make it live with you. Hello, JWM, Faraz, Eagle Source. By the way, Eagle Source, you're the one who was looking at the camera, right? The surveillance camera that I made. And yeah, I just released an update on that, and sold enough cameras that I need to pay attention and keep upping the ante on that. So that's looking good. Okay, so anyway, yes, there are 41 of you here, and no one wants to leave a like or dislike. Savvy, hello Savvy. Life with Janie, hello Life with Janie. So the hello Double J. So the topic is what is device. First of all, let me just explain first what device fingerprinting is. Device fingerprinting is not the same as browser fingerprinting, although it's related. Device fingerprinting is about a phone. Okay? It's about a phone. So if it's not a phone, then it's not going to have device fingerprinting. It's going to have browser fingerprinting. Someone is going to say, well, what about my PC? Is there going to be a device fingerprint? I made it clear. Device fingerprinting is on a phone. It's not something you expect will be done on a PC of any sort. So, no, I don't care what your PC is. You could be running Windows. It's not doing device fingerprinting per se. It has different kinds of threats, though. But as far as device fingerprinting, no. On a computer, the threat is called browser fingerprinting. Now, you can also have browser fingerprinting on a phone. So a phone actually has two threats. One is browser fingerprinting, and the other one is device fingerprinting. So again, to be clear, device fingerprinting, as we're going to talk about it, is specifically about a phone. So a device fingerprint, guys, a device fingerprint is about identifying you. So it's a little bit more persistent than a browser fingerprint. For one, once a device fingerprint you, then your device is pretty much zucked. So it kind of stays with the device until you change the device, and everything you do on the device will be part of what they track. So it's kind of long term, so you can't undo it. So for that reason, when you get to a point where you say, well, I'm sick and tired of the device fingerprinting, the solution is to dump the device and get a new one with a completely different setup that doesn't have the capability for device fingerprinting. Device fingerprinting is specific to Apple and Google. So there's no real device fingerprinting without Apple and Google. So if you have a Linux phone, there's no Apple or Google in there, so therefore there's no device fingerprinting. A de-Googled phone also does not have the same kind of device fingerprinting because there's no real Google on there. So that's one of the requirements of device fingerprinting. It has to be with Apple and Google. It's 100% clear that if you're running iOS, then you will have device fingerprinting with Apple, regardless of what Apple says about how they care about your privacy. Whether they say that or not, the fact of the matter is, anything you do on that phone is tracked to you. And if you're using Apple Pay, then it's even worse. If you're using anything to purchase anything on an iPhone, on iTunes, or on the iTunes or on the on the App Store, or whatever you're doing on the phone, you're using a credit card. Your credit card is attached to your Apple ID. So one of the things that is different about device fingerprinting, it's always attached to an Apple ID or Google ID. So there's no escaping that. Apple ID or Google ID. So that's quite important right there, because if Apple knows your Apple ID, they know your credit card. If they know your credit card, they know your real name, they know where you live. They know where they sent you the phone if you bought the phone online. Same with Google. They know your purchases on in-app purchases on the store. They know anytime you buy anything from the App Store, from the Google Play Store, and that is tied to your other accounts. Since on Google, it's actually worse because your Gmail account is also tied to whatever email messages you get. So all that's tied to your real identity. So one of the problems with device fingerprinting is it's tied to real identity, which in the case of browser fingerprinting is not necessarily tied to real identity. Not necessarily. It could be, but not necessarily, and that's the difference. Okay? So a device fingerprint is much more black and white. We have to clock in at work using our fingerprint. Apple can device fingerprint a Linux phone if you use their taskbar. Taskbar on what? I don't know of any taskbar on a Linux phone. Would you recommend using a VPN or a firewall like NetGuard on Android since you can only use one at a time? Alan, if it's Google Android, I don't recommend anything. I recommend you leave Google Android and de-Google that phone or get a de-Googled phone. So no. But if you buy one of my phones that I sell that's de-Googled, like this, this is a Moto G7 Play, and yeah, NetGuard's on here. NetGuard is one of the important elements of this. Yes, NetGuard is automatically installed. So yeah, NetGuard is installed on a de-Googled phone. As far as a non-Google, an actual Google phone, it's like, what's the point? What is the point? Would you recommend using, what am I missing here? Okay, we have, I de-Googled my phone. Good for you. Action Potato. Cosmic Rose. Does a PC not have a device fingerprint on a laptop? No, not in the same direct way that can be used. Microsoft does know your Microsoft ID if you log in using the Microsoft ID, which I don't. So on Microsoft, on Windows, you are actually, you have the choice. By default, when they sell you Windows 10, they force you to log in using a Microsoft account, online account. And I don't use that. I use a local account that's local only to the PC. So yeah, if you do not connect it to a online account and you don't log in with an online account, then you don't get a device fingerprint. Now, if you do, Microsoft itself knows, who owns the computer. But however, that's not really tracked in the same way as a phone. So what can you do on a computer? A computer doesn't have a GPS or Wi-Fi triangulation per se, in the same way. So it's much more limited. Basically, if you're going to talk about levels of tracking, some of you are like saying, I'm going to, set up my computer to be super duper safe and put all of these firewalls and all that on a computer and 10,000 stupid antivirus that you don't need. You do not need antivirus. Certainly don't need to pay for one. Watch my videos on that, or I'll make a new video for 2020 telling you that you do not need an antivirus. But a PC is a completely different case, because on a PC, the threat is completely different than on a phone. The phone is portable. It's with you. It tracks every move you make, everywhere you go, every interaction, who you're near to, proximity tracking, like they're going to use for contact tracing. All of that exists in a phone. That does not exist in a computer. A computer sits on a table, a desk somewhere, and gets ignored until you pick it up again. So computers don't usually move as much as a phone, so they're not in the same kind of danger. Would we take it to like T-Mobile or or ATT to connect. What are you talking about? Why is it always see? Why is it I always see Snowden guys with wired earbuds? Good, smart of them. Computers run VMs. They may run VMs. They don't have to run VMs. I never log into Microsoft. Good. Apple, yes, they do have some sort of Wi-Fi triangulation, but it's not Wi-Fi scanning. So, and the reason it doesn't, it's a little bit more limited, is because there's no GPS on there. So, yeah, there's a lot of little questions here. You got to understand terminology, like what's Wi-Fi scanning. Anyway, I don't want to confuse the issue, so we'll stick to the main point. And the main point is, hey, hello, huge byte, less than 4 full days, and still no mention of it, huge byte. Puzzles might the Google phone. Would we take it to T-Mobile or AT&T to connect? Puzzles, no. You buy a SIM card and you insert it in and fire it up, which you can do online. You buy a SIM card and you activate it and you stick it in the phone and it works. So the phones I sell typically work with T-Mobile and AT&T and their resellers. And if you want a Verizon version, I have to actually get those separately. I don't have any Verizon ones at the moment. I have to pre-order those. So if you want Verizon specifically, then you have to ask for a Moto G7 Play, this is the only one that supports Verizon. And I have to specifically order that. I don't have any in stock at the moment. Everything is GSM. Everything I have is GSM at the moment. Take your meds. You're spinning out of control. Do any of your Google phones support Verizon? Yes. As I said, the Moto G7 Play can support Verizon, but I have to order them specifically. It's a separate model. So I have to order the Verizon version, which I can, but I don't have any coming in. That's not, everyone that's Verizon has been purchased. So if you want to get a Verizon one, contact me and say, I want a Verizon one, and then give me a week to order it. And then I can do it. Is McAfee safe to use? No. Even McAfee will tell you not to use McAfee. My name on my account on my computer is not real either. Good. What mic and camera do you have? It's excellent. The mic and camera I have are expensive. The camera is a DSLR, brand new Sony. So it's expensive, and what is this? I have so many microphones. This one is Audio Technica. So Audio Technica, and then the Sony A6400, I think. I can't remember. Can't remember the model. Okay, what is a titanium backup after hard reset to change font fingerprint? Okay, forget about that. You're wasting your energy on that. What I'm trying to focus your head on is the fact that you're talking about device fingerprint at a different level than browser fingerprint. It's almost like a 10-to-1 ratio. The danger of device fingerprint is extreme. The danger of browser fingerprinting on a computer is not as extreme, depending on what apps you have. So let me tell you about the main danger between the two. The problem is on a device fingerprint, it's actually tied to your real name. Because as I told you, you can't really have an Apple ID or Google ID without tying it to a credit card. It's almost like Amazon. You buy from Amazon, well, obviously, unless you use a corporation like me, then, everything is under your name. So, I try to use corporations for PayPal, Amazon, and stuff like that. But, on you don't do that on a phone. On a phone, it asks for your name and it asks for a specific credit card. So you're stuck there on a phone if you're going to use Apple and Google. The answer is, of course, is to not use an Apple or Google phone that requires any kind of Google login. And that's the reason why, I focus on teaching you to abandon your Google phone and your Apple iPhone. Now, a browser fingerprint is a little bit different. See, the browser fingerprint doesn't actually know who you are. They back into it. This is what a browser fingerprint is. You go into a website and the tracking of the browser fingerprint is being done by Google, Apple, and those ad tracker companies affiliated with Google. I mean, I didn't mean Apple. I meant Facebook. So on browser fingerprinting, it's really a capability of Google and Facebook and all of the ad tracking companies that are affiliated with Google. So almost all of those, like click this and click that, are all affiliated with Google in some way. All of those companies do browser fingerprinting. Browser fingerprinting says, I've seen you before. I have ID'd your device and your device 1001A. 1001A is your ID. I've identified you, and I gave you a code identifier of 1001A. And if I ever see your computer again, I'll say, oh, I've seen 1001A before. By itself, they don't know who 1001A is. They have to now get other data to now build up the database, and that's really where the issue is. So browser fingerprinting by itself is not that useful until it collects all the other data. So what does it collect? One of the things it can collect is your IP address, your email address, and your phone number. Where does it get the phone number? Two-factor authentication. If I can ask you for two-factor authentication on any website and I browser fingerprint you, then I have now connected the phone to your computer. That's the same with Facebook. If you run Facebook on a computer and it has two-factor authentication with a phone number, the phone number with your identity is now tied to the computer based on your Facebook browser fingerprint. Now, some of you will say, well, that's not an issue because I log out of Facebook. Not correct. See, that's the danger of Facebook specifically, is because most websites have a Facebook like button. And Facebook like buttons are really the full Facebook.com. They're just in a little button. So any website you go to has a Facebook in it. So if you go to a website and you have a Facebook account, it then says, oh, I fingerprinted this, your 1001A computer, and I've fingerprinted you, and this is what you're doing on this website. And then the next time you go into Facebook, it will match and say, oh, you're on Facebook, and this is your browser fingerprint. Oh, by the way, we have seen your computer in 50,000 websites you visited in the last month, and all of them are then tied to you. So now we will re-identify all those entries for the browser fingerprint and name it to you. Because it's Facebook, we have your real name. So that's how that's done. Solution to that? Simple. Don't have a Facebook account. If you don't have a Facebook account, Facebook doesn't become a threat. If you do not have a Facebook account, that threat does not exist. So I pretty much ignore browser fingerprinting as a threat from Facebook because I don't have a Facebook account. The only two sources of the browser fingerprint threat is Facebook and Google, not Apple, not Microsoft. Facebook and Google. Why? Because every browser, every website has something called Google Analytics. Every website has some Google ads on there if they don't have Google Analytics, which basically means that every website embeds google.com. For the same reason that you can be tracked by facebook.com, you can be tracked by google.com because every website puts it in there. So they're actually spying on every website. By the way, in my app, Brex.me, I don't put any Google Analytics on there for that reason. So there's no Facebook-like, there's no analytics. So nobody tracks your activities on my app because I don't want them there. So I don't give them space on my website, which allows them to spy on you on some other website. Okay, so I hope you understand that difference. So Google Analytics exists in just about every website. So if 99% of the websites have Google Analytics, then they have a Google spy in there. Okay, now again, how is that different from Facebook? Facebook is different because Facebook is a real name website. It has real connections, real contacts, real everything. On Google, you may or may not have a real identity. If you use a fake name, then it may not be tied to anything. Of course, if you use a credit card with a Google ID because you use the same one on the phone, then you're zocked, yes. But you can fix it by using a different Google ID on the computer. Then the browser will have a different identity. So it can't tie it to a credit card. So yes, it's going to track you, but the value of what it's tracking is less important because it doesn't have much information other than one very key one, which is IP address, and the other one is your name. If it doesn't have your name, then it has the IP address. So solution, VPN it. If you're in a VPN, then obviously Google doesn't have the IP address. So one less piece of information, so one less thing to match. So the collection doesn't have much value. So browser fingerprinting is an issue, but it's not as deadly without Facebook, because everything you do with Facebook has a real name attached to it. So yes, it's dangerous, and you can solve it. And the way that I tell you in the videos to solve browser fingerprinting is by having multiple browsers. Have, Firefox, Chrome, Chromium, Brave, just not Opera, no Opera, Safari, whatever else you do, just do not use that so that you separate out Google on its own. So for example, if you're going to go to Google websites, use Chrome. If you're going to go to YouTube, use Chrome. If you're going to go to Amazon, don't use Chrome, use Firefox or whatever. If you're going to use Facebook, use something completely separate by itself. But like I said, don't use Facebook. But if you use Facebook on its own browser, Facebook then is isolated and can't really move. It can't capture anything because you're not presumably using it to go to any other website. It's just a very hard habit to build, but since I don't have any Facebook, then I don't have to worry about building that habit. But if you're going to use Facebook, you have to isolate Facebook. Have to. It's the most dangerous thing on the planet. What is my app called? You mean Brax.me? Is there any way to have your cake and eat it too? Can you compartmentalize your browsing, or is that futile? Compartmentalization, containers, and all these different terms, like with Firefox, is not useful. It's only partially helpful. You're not going to beat Facebook with that, okay? I have a video called the Browser Threat Test where it shows that depending on how, you see, nobody says I have to just take one fingerprint. I can take 10 different fingerprints of your browser, and each one at different levels of accuracy. but a lower level of accuracy may be good enough for my purposes, in which case I can still identify you. So no, it's not going to work to have these containers because they have the same fingerprint. Let me tell you what's wrong with the container concept that's being used in Firefox. The idea of a container on Firefox, a nice try, Firefox, but when they came up with that, I already said this is not going to work because I already knew what the answer was. And browser fingerprinting is something that I've been playing around with for a while. I've written programs doing browser fingerprinting. The problem with containers is that their idea with a container is that you isolate cookies. So in a browser isolation, in a container approach that Firefox does with your websites, what they're really doing is saying we're going to isolate the cookies so one website doesn't see cookies from another website by putting them in separate memory space so you can't grab them. You see, that concept is outdated, and let me tell you why. The concept is outdated because I don't have to use cookies to do browser fingerprinting. Who said I had to use cookies? If I'm browser fingerprinting you, I could store that same value in my database. I don't have to put it. I don't have to put anything on your computer. So some of you waste so much time doing this. You're going to go to your computer and you're going to block cookies, thinking that's where your threat is. And all the advanced people who do this already know we don't have to use cookies. We can just identify your computer and store it in our servers. And as long as we recognize you again, it doesn't matter that we don't have a cookie. We'll recognize you and refer to our database and say, yep, we've seen you before. Therefore, this must be you. Now let's compare other things. Do you have the same IP address? And so on. And then we'll have a more confirmed match of who you are. So it doesn't have to be on a cookie. That is the fault of container approaches because they actually assume that the only fingerprint is based on a cookie. Now, browser isolation, which is my approach, browser isolation means use multiple browsers. Well, just the use of a different browser makes a different fingerprint because that's one of the things that you ask for is what browser are you on? What's the display size, screen size? All of this changes with a browser. You don't have to do anything special. Just by having a different browser, it's completely different. So browser isolation is the best way. So in my computer, I have 5-6 browsers. And I will typically have 2 or 3 browsers always open. Always. 2 or 3 browsers. And the data cannot cross. They not only are they in a separate memory space, they're also in a separate permissioned space on the hard drive because they're different applications, so they can't cross over and steal each other's data. So browser isolation, isolate the sharing. So if you're running Google and you go do Amazon on a different browser, it can't get the Amazon data from Google. Okay, so that's the difference between those approaches. So containers and compartments is not important. Now, device fingerprinting, on the other hand, doesn't require any of that because imagine you're an app. An app isn't going to care what the browser is. They don't need to know what the browser is. They just look at the computer, the phone itself, and say, what is your IMEI? Which is so unique to you. Only one phone in the world will have that IMEI. What is your Google ID? In which case, it'll identify you or your family. What's your IP address? What's your MAC address? All of those are unique values and it's available to apps. So the danger in device fingerprinting has to do with these zucking apps. Some of them. So the problem with apps is that they have access to that data. They can go deep inside the operating system and find out the IMEI, your Google ID. They're all these programming calls called APIs that grant them access to that, and your phone number. It can get that information from the device, in which case your device is specifically identified. Thank you, MGS Best Productions. Will clear my cookies make my computer faster? No. In fact, it usually slows it down. You don't know how containers work. Are you talking to me? Someone actually tells me that I don't know how containers work. Run my browser threat test. I tested that. I used Firefox. Browser containers. So browser containers, yes. I don't know how it works. Do you recommend accessing Gmail through Thunderbird or via the Gmail site? That's a good question. If you have a VPN, I would use Thunderbird. If you do not have a VPN, I would use the Gmail site. But then it will browser fingerprint you, but it won't transmit your IP address. This is a completely different threat, though. It's a completely different threat. Let me just say this. Your emails has your IP address on it. This is not part of browser fingerprinting. It's a completely different threat, okay? Completely different threat. So every email you send out has your IP address on it. So that has nothing to do with browser fingerprinting. So yes, Google will be able to browser fingerprint you for using Gmail. What they can do with that depends on what's in the email. Okay, so that's a separate concept. The problem is every time you hit send on the email, Thunderbird will include your IP address. So how do you solve that? Use Gmail, because Gmail will not include your IP address. It will include their IP address. So Gmail will fingerprint you, but they will not forward the information in the email itself. So if any of you don't know this, anytime you send an email out to the world, your IP address is on it. This is why you need a VPN or VPN router. Because otherwise, everything you do, even when your phone is inactive, is sending emails back and forth and sending your IP address. Do I recommend Internet Explorer? Zuck, no. Browser isolation works better than one browser compartmentalization. So I tested that. Watched the video, browser threat test, and even Tor browsers can be identified, at least for a time. So unless you take some specific steps to modify what you see on the screen, then it doesn't really keep them from identifying you, especially for short periods. So let's say you're running Facebook and you're on Tor and you're running all these different websites, you will be fingerprinted even if you're on Tor. It doesn't need your IP address. It'll fingerprint you in other ways. Okay? So the browser threat test confirms that. So the only way to actually isolate programs from each other so that they don't share the browser fingerprint is by browser isolation, which is a multi-browser approach. I'm the only one that recommends that. That concept was my invention from, 5 years ago, where when the browser fingerprinting threat became big, and I started implementing that. I actually was implementing it because I thought, I didn't trust the browser, a single browser, and then it turns out later on that actually solves a lot of other issues. Hello, Jay. What about the new Microsoft Edge? That is actually just Chrome. So yeah, run it if you want. So the new Microsoft Edge is just Chromium. So download Chromium. Put that in one of the browsers on the list that you use. So it can be one of the browsers that you use, just not the old Internet Explorer. It really sucks. I mean, it has nothing to do with security. It's just, just a bad browser. Just, you'll find if you go to a lot of websites, there's always something unique with a Internet Explorer site. Always. Hello, Reno. I believe Edge is just Chromium. Yes, it is. You need to be careful about sending email to from Gmail. Sometimes they will direct it outside of the US so they can legally read it. They already read it, Felipe? What are you talking about? They don't need any legal right to read it. It's on their server. They'll read it anytime they want. Where did you get that? Obviously, the email server company can read any email. So that's obvious. Old man. Chrome, the browser, or the OS? I'm talking about Chromium. I don't know what you're talking about, Philip. Okay, so if you understand the threat of how browser fingerprinting works, you stop it cold when you split up your actions into different browsers. Again, let me clarify, because some of you think this is some complicated topic, and it's not. Let's say you only have 2 browsers. It's really simple. Anything to do with Google, use one browser. Anything that has nothing to do with Google, meaning Google sign in, if you have to sign into Google, sign in to Chrome. Okay? If you're not going to sign in to some other website, use a second browser that has no sign in to Google and no Facebook. End of story. That's it. 2 browsers. The only reason for a third browser is Facebook. Now, why do I say that's enough? Because those are the only 2 companies that actually do active browser fingerprinting, Facebook and Google. There's no one else has this kind of infrastructure that can actually make browser fingerprinting work. In order for browser fingerprinting work, websites have to willingly put your code into their websites, and that's very limited, and mostly limited to Facebook and Google. That's it. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you for talking about Braxme. That is a safe platform. So do you understand what I'm saying here? There are only 2 companies that have any impact on browser fingerprinting, Google and Facebook. I don't have Facebook, so that's out of existence. I don't even have to think about that. I don't have to think about Facebook. If you're thinking about Facebook, give it its own browser. Okay? Do not load the app on your ducking phone. No. Do not put the app on your ducking phone. If you're going to run Facebook on your phone because you want to ignore me, get a Brave browser on your phone and run Facebook on it only. That would be the equivalent of browser isolation on a phone. Again, the only threat to browser fingerprinting is Facebook and Google. No one else is a threat on browser fingerprinting. No one else. You don't have the infrastructure to collect data like Google and Facebook, so it doesn't even work. So let's say I browser fingerprint you on my website. What does that tell me? Nothing. It tells me you've been here before, but other than that, I already know that. I know you've been here before. You logged in. So browser fingerprinting does not help in any way on a single site except to find trolls. That is the main benefit, and it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here. Browser fingerprinting done by a website is simply used to see if you have duplicate accounts. That is the only issue. If you're not concerned with security, then this channel is not for you. Will switching to Bing stop this fingerprinting? No. What does Bing have to do with anything? Just more users. I have nothing special. Everyone give a like. Yes, please give a like to the broadcast. I'm not getting as high a number as usual, so maybe nobody likes my topic. Anyway, this is kind of complex, but I'm simplifying it for you. Just memorize what I just said. If you don't understand what I'm saying, take note. Browser fingerprinting is a threat only from Apple and Google. So if you isolate, Facebook and Google. So if you isolate Google and Facebook from anything else you do on the internet, you're done. That's it. You don't have to think about what browser fingerprinting does. You don't need to spend any time on that. You don't need to do clear cookies or waste any more information on that, because they know what you're doing anyway if you're on Google. Instead, on Google, go to Google Activity Controls and pause tracking of whatever you don't want them to track when doing browser fingerprinting. That you can do there. Okay? So that's how you handle it on browser fingerprinting. So it's not as massive of an issue as you think. Now, device fingerprinting. Device fingerprinting is inescapable if you have a Google or Apple iOS phone. In fact, I'm trying to think, how do you escape device fingerprinting with iOS? You can't uninstall iOS and load something else. There really isn't anything you can do. So if you think that browser fingerprinting, if device fingerprinting is less of an issue on iOS, it's actually worse. At least on Android, you can take your phone and load Lineage OS on there without gaps, and at least you can take Google out of there, potentially with using the same hardware. But you cannot do anything on an Apple device. The Apple device is stuck. So for this reason, I stopped taking my iPhone out of the house. It's now it never leaves. They already have the information, so it doesn't leave. This is an iPad right here, never leaves. It's always just here in the broadcast studio. My iPhone doesn't move. It's always in the same spot. There's no SIM card in it. It doesn't go anywhere. So can you mask your IP address? You have to mask your IP address. That's the whole point. You must mask your IP address. No name, no name. I'll be back in a few minutes. By the way, no name. There's so many people with the name No Name that I actually don't know who No Name is. Like which one? There's so many people even on Brax Me, there's so many people with the name No Name. So I'm confused. So I tried Brave and they nag you to join their ad program with my info. I ignore that, Annie. I don't get anything. I turn all of that off. There's not much I get from Brave. Okay. So anyway, back to device fingerprinting. So if you have an iOS phone, and mind you, I was a very heavy iPhone user. I thought iPhones were going to be more secure than Android, so I was using iPhones, tremendously for many, many years, until I just, did further analysis, and I just said, how do I escape this? Because of the Apple ID, there's nothing I do that is not known to Apple. My phone tells me, you are 5 minutes from your zucking destination. And I say, how do you know what my zucking destination is? You're 200 yards from your car. How the zuck did you know that? It knows your habits and, knows how much time you spend on your phone, on each app. And it's supposed to be for health reasons or whatever reasons. But the fact of the matter is, that's attached to your name, your real identity with your location, your credit card, and everything else. So when they're going to do social distancing and contact tracing, they don't need to do much. They already have that information about you. They already know who you've been in touch with. So anyway, so iOS phones are not, it's a dead end. So if you're, like some of you are so proud you bought your new iPhone 11, I'm not going to update my iPhone anymore. I have an iPhone 10 and that's it. And I have every version of the iPhone before that. I have every single one from iPhone 1. Okay? And multiple of some of them. So I have every version of the iPhone. And I was developing apps for iOS. So I was concerned about that. And now I don't think I'm going to buy an iPhone again. Okay? I know you first, last. Not really. But not too many people use the name first, last. They just use no name. Hello, Doug. Okay, so back to my phone choices. Because of the device fingerprinting issue, there really is too much information that Google knows about your phone. For example, since they already know your locations using Wi-Fi scanning, which you cannot turn off on an iPhone, there's 24/7 location tracking. And you already know this if you have an iPhone because there's Find My Phone. How do you think Find My Phone works? Find My Phone uses this Wi-Fi scanning to find your location 24/7. Isn't that enough? Find My Phone. Isn't that enough? I mean, doesn't that tell you everything? You can't come to me and say, well, iOS isn't tracking me. Well, suck you. There's Find My Phone. And you say, well, I can turn off Find My Phone. Wrong. Absolutely false. You cannot turn off Find My Phone. What you can do is have Apple not show you what's in Find My Phone. So if you don't want to see what they know, you could say, well, I don't want to see Find My Phone. Okay, they won't show it to you. It doesn't mean they're not collecting it, because they have to. It's part of Wi-Fi scanning and the Wi-Fi probes that I keep talking about. So, given the fact that there's nothing that I can turn off, why would I want this thing tracking my every move, and it's going to be saying to me now that I was in contact with such and such a person who had COVID-19? I'll just stay home. I don't need any contact information about who I'm in contact with because I'm just going to stay home. Checkmate is the name penguin with a gun on my profile picture. That's right. You might be no name too. First, last, you could be many names. You could also be first. Yes. What do I know? Fortunately for you, on Google they don't give you any way to identify accounts anyway. So there's very limited information about each account here on Google. They know everything. They just don't share it to us, third parties. My iPhone 11 is now on eBay. Yay! I'm going to tell you. These Google phones are so exciting. I'll be frank with you. I just love it. So, Brax OS. Let me just tell you about Brax OS. There's no Google ID. I've never logged in. I downloaded Yelp on this, so it has a Google app called Yelp. But I never signed into the phone, so what identity does Google have? In fact, what identity did it use to download it from the Play Store? Well, it spoofed it. It used a Google account shared among thousands of people, so it actually doesn't know who I am that downloaded it. And since I'm using a VPN anyway, I'm using a VPN router. So I have one of these devices as my router. which is VPN. So the phone doesn't actually have any identity. It doesn't have an IP address that's visible. It doesn't have an identity. And there's nothing Google on here whatsoever. Yet I'm able to run some Google apps. I'm running Twitter, Periscope, Waze. I was able to run just about, many, even Uber and so on. They all ran. Have you set a pin to access the phone? You can use the shape thing. That's what they do on Android. They use a little pattern, so you put in your pattern. So, but the phone doesn't have any identity, and it's just amazing. So I've been selling a lot of these. In fact, I can't keep them in stock. These have been flying off the shelves. Mostly, if you want one, you have to kind of, pre-order one. I let people pre-order if it's going to arrive like then the next day, because it's going too fast. So, I ordered a ton of them, and they're so slow to arrive, and I can't keep up with them. I'm like building so many of these phones a day, and it takes a long time to build one. It does take a very long time, and they're just so popular, and I can see why, because I use it myself, and it's like, it's amazing. It's amazing. No identity. It's amazing. When there's no identity, it's like, it's a good feeling. Good feeling when Waze, by the way, I leave location off so that Waze doesn't get my location unless I'm actually on a trip. So I always leave Waze off, and you know how you can, by the way, Waze will trick you. It actually try to get data from you when it's sleeping, because it's Google, right? So I run NetGuard. So there's a firewall that stops apps like Yelp. Yelp is another one that's going to take your location data when you're not aware of it, like when the phone is not active. It's going to be taking data, and I block it with NetGuard. So nothing leaks from my phone. It's awesome. So that's the Brax router shipped to Uganda. By the way, a lot of shipping is to a lot of countries in Africa, some parts of Latin America, and so on, are impossible right now because there are no flights. So many places, although there's no COVID-19 ban, they don't have any airplanes. Nobody's flying to them. So because of that, there's no mail. How much are these? This one here is $249. This is a Moto G7 Play, and then there's a larger phone called a Moto G7, and that's $299. So they're flying. I mean, I can't buy them fast enough. I mean, I spend a lot of money. I'm buying them from everywhere I can. I must be the biggest buyer of these phones right now, and they're flying off the shelves. So I thought, the reason I selected these is I thought there'd be a lot of it in stock, and they're just, it's working. People are very happy with getting the phone, so it's working out well. What is the best GPS navigation for Linux phones with Ubuntu? UNav on Ubuntu Touch. And on the Google phone, I use Openstreetmaps, Osmand, Openstreetmaps. If you go to the Play Store, we'll show you prices. I'll just uninstall Google app, de-Google the phone on Android. Yeah, you cannot uninstall Google apps from an existing Android. You can't do that. You got to start from scratch. You have to install it without Google Apps. The moment you put Google Apps in, you can't take it out. So, any warranty? No. The moment I de-Google it, the warranty ends. So, there's a warranty. I buy them new. So, that's your guarantee. I buy them brand new. So I open the box from a fresh new one. I've been buying them new because I don't really want any issues. So I buy them new, and then I unlock them. Once you unlock the flash bootloader on a phone, warranty ends. So the manufacturer is not going to consider a warranty anymore, but they're brand new. So yeah, they're brand new. So that's, it's not a big deal. Any Newsome Librem 5 or Pine phone? Yes, I'm news. Well, there's new Ubuntu Touch versions, but so far I want to have it more refined before I do a video. If I try it and it's not perfect yet, I'm going to hold off making the video because I don't want to keep doing it over and over. Yeah, so yes, this is so worth it, guys. I mean, truly, I want everyone in my family to switch to these, and can't get enough of them to even do that. So, and I warrant my work on it. So if you want me to reinstall it, ship it back to me, and I'll upgrade it and do whatever for 1 year. Pure Maps. I don't know about Pure Maps. I only used. I'm not familiar with that King Sing. I think that may be new. I haven't tried that, so the only one I've been using is UNAV. Trashing the iOS, I have to say, sorry iOS, but I am done with iOS. Truly done. Aside from the fact that they're so overpriced. Guys, I paid over $1,000. I paid $1,400 for my iPhone. $299. And I'm going to tell you something. This is so fast, this phone. Okay, very fast, it's about the same size as an iPhone 10. And I use it and do the same things I do with an iPhone 10. And in fact, it looks the same. The screen looks the same. The clarity of the screen and the speed looks the same. And I didn't pay $1,400 for it. This is $249. Suck. And it's new. It's a new phone. $249. Now you're wondering why I can sell so many of these, because it's like, people get them and they're like so happy because it's great. And there's no identity. Here's the other thing that is different, by the way. So I have two versions of this. One is a G7, and this one is a G7 Play, which is a little smaller. The difference, though, is that the G7, the more expensive one, is more stable. It's running Android 9. It has on-the-air updates and so on, and it's well maintained, and everything works on it. There's no issue on it at all on the G7. So that's the one that's $299. That's harder to get, though. So I don't have a lot of that. I have more of the Play. The problem with the G7 is that it's running Android 9. It's the only stable version that runs on it. This one is running Android 10. Now, why is that important? Yes, certain things don't work on the Google 7 Play. For example, the Fingerprint doesn't work. Fingerprint doesn't work, which I don't care about. Okay? Now, and there's a couple of minor bugs. They're really too minor to be concerned about. One of them is sometimes you get on the phone and they can't hear your voice, and that's because the ringer. If the ringer volume is set to 0, then the voice doesn't work on a call. So when that happens, I just raise the ringer and call back if I forget. So that's it. That's the only bug that really is of any importance. Now, what is neat about this phone is this runs Android 10. This cheaper phone is actually running Android 10. Android 10 has a MAC spoofer built in. So MAC address spoofing is built into Android 10. So this is actually more secure for proximity tracking and all, evading that. This is a better phone. And it's cheaper and it's better for that. So I kind of like the size too. I like the size. I don't like the big one. It's harder to hold. And it's cheaper. And it's easier to find. And I can get versions of this that run on Verizon. The G7 only runs on T-Mobile and AT&T and they're resellers. The Play has some versions run on GSM and some versions run on CDMA. So this one has more flexibility. But its Android 10 is much better for device fingerprinting because this device actually blocks access to the serial number. That's one of the items for browser fingerprinting. So I don't know. I kind of like this better. So yes, it doesn't have on-the-air updates yet, but it's very easy to update. I mean, the instruction to update is really simple. So once I install it, all the hard work is done. It's really easy to update it. One command and you can update it. So that's why I'm not too worried about not having on-the-air updates to this, because it's a very simple instruction to update it, and you can update it forever, with that same instruction. So so if there's like a fix to the fingerprint and so on, there it can be done by yourself later on. It's very, very simple to do. But it's not automatic like the G7. So the G7 is better for, let's say, somebody who's not techie. So if you do not know anything about computers and you don't really want to mess with it, stick to the G7. For the more advanced, this is more fun. This is Android 10. Is the G7 Play the same as the size as the iPhone 10? Exactly the same size, King Singh. In fact, if I put it next to each other, I can actually pile it up. It's hard to tell which is which. So when I grab the iPhone 10 and this, I can't really tell. They have the same case too. So unless I turn it over, I can't really tell which is which. Don't use phones. Well, that should be right as well if you can handle that. Because that's a problem. If you need to use a phone, I have to because I'm a developer. But if you can avoid not using a phone, stick to Ubuntu Touch. Ubuntu Touch obviously is the safest phone. There's nothing safer than Ubuntu Touch at the moment, or a Pine phone. Nothing safer than that, or Librem 5. Those are the safest phones. They have subtle information on you. It's amazing. Decide what you want, phone and text or plethora of apps. If you just need phone, text, and a few websites, then you should stick to Ubuntu Touch. It is just more secure, hands down. My only problem with a Nexus 5 using Ubuntu Touch is the Nexus 5 doesn't really handle Bluetooth well. There's a bug in the Bluetooth, which is an issue for having a phone conversation hands-free. That is what I do not like about Ubuntu Touch on a Nexus 5. So hopefully the Pine phone version will solve that. And I do have a Pine phone and a Nexus 5. Are there any privacy issues with Openstreetmaps? I recently learned that Google Maps is partly based on it. No. There's no identification on a de-Google. You got to start with the basics. Have a de-Googled phone. So even if they get information, they're not getting anything of any importance because you're just an identity used by thousands of people. You're basically one of thousands. They use the same name, the same account for thousands and thousands of people. So it's actually giving this information out because Google is seeing a lot of data coming in from one account, which is how it's spoofed in something called Micro G, the Micro G project. Micro G project is what I install on this. And Micro G is a fake Google. It's a Google spoofer. So it spoofs Google. So when you run it, it actually makes it think that it makes an app think they're talking to Google, but they're not talking to Google. They're talking to a fake Google. And the fake Google is redirecting it back to Google, but with anonymity. So still operating with Google, but they don't know by whom, which is exactly what you want. I have 2 BlackBerries. They're great. Loading Ubuntu soon on a Nexus 5. The Nexus 5 I ordered. Do you prefer a phone carrier, or is T-Mobile sufficient? Or should I stick to internet with VPN? The Nexus 5, I use T-Mobile on it, or Ting.com, which is T-Mobile reseller. That's typically what I use. It's GSM only. So you're going to have to stick to T-Mobile or AT&T on that. Do you recommend the best? Hey Rob, do you recommend this to be the best to buy from you? No, you don't have to buy from me. You can. Some other phones I recommend are from eFoundation, but they're in Europe only. So if you're in the U.S., you're not going to get those. They're very expensive though. They're using Samsung Galaxies, so you're talking, 400 to 700 range phones, versus mine is 249 to 299. So I'm just in a different market. And then you can go to Graphene OS, which sells Pixels, but Pixels are old phones. So unless you go to the expensive Pixel 3, then you're going to be getting more expensive than this. And the Pixel's way too old. So I may install Graphene OS on some Pixels and use those as kind of a low end. So I may do it myself. So those are good options as well. So Graphene is fine, eFoundation is fine. It's more about the phone choice. So because of the choice of the phone, then it becomes a pricing thing. So if you want a brand new phone that is completely functional with Android 10, then these phones are. The reason I sell them, they're kind of amazing for the money. They're not cheap looking phones at all. They look great. They look great. Put a nice case on them to protect them, and they are, yes, they're not made of glass like Apple. They'll charge you $1,000 for that glass. You want the glass? Yes, pay an extra $1,000. But if you want just speed and operation, it's great. Phone number change might be optimal. Later on, you could do that. Oops, sorry. Made the same mistake. Not charging my. Hold on. My computer is gonna die here. Forgot to plug it in. Whew. Wow. Almost lost the broadcast there. It just flashed a message saying battery was running low. I forgot to plug it in. So no zucking SE2 for me. No. Zuck that. No, I am done with iPhones. The only thing you do is you transfer your SIM card from your other phone to this. And they look great. Certainly, yes, the iPhone 10, 11 is more edge to edge, That's about the main difference, is it goes all the way to the bottom of the screen. Other than that, that's about the main difference. Yes, I know the iPhone 10 has a better camera. iPhone 11 is a better camera. If that's important to you, then you're zucked. If I were you, I want a better camera. Get yourself a better camera. Get yourself a nice camera. This is a nice Canon GX. I'm sure this takes better pictures than the iPhone. This is a nice camera. Okay, so I used this for my video before. Now I have a big DSLR, but this is what I was using last year. This is what I was using last year to broadcast. So, yeah, this is pretty small too. So I'm not going to rely on the phone to be the main camera. I want a camera, I want a higher quality camera. How to transfer iPhone info to your phones? Well, that depends on what info. Contact list, you mean? You can export the contact list. I ordered a black phone with silent circle back in the day. Could I program that phone with Ubuntu or Linux? Silent Circle. I mean, really, that. You know, I when I read the specs on a black phone, Andrew, it's really just a Android phone with a VPN for the voice over IP. I don't know what they thought was so secure about it. I mean, there's nothing different about it. It's just an Android. So I don't really know if it's Kelp says this looks so ancient. This is a new phone. This is only in fact, when I sell it to you, it's a new phone. It's just a 2019 model. Oh, it's so ancient. It's 2019, says Kelp. 2019 phones are ancient. Oh my gosh. It's like... That's the reason I'm not selling the Pixel, is because it's way too old. Like a Pixel is 20... Pixel is 2015, 2016. Somewhere on there. That reason black phone didn't succeed. Well, you know, if they made the black phone Linux, that would succeed. They didn't, you know. Now they can make a new black phone using Linux. What the best phones should sell that are Google? I only sell two right now. Marvelous Marvin. I only sell the Moto G7 for $299 and the Moto G7 Play for $249. And like I said, there's other manufacturers. You can go to, you know, eFoundation in Europe, and you can go to Graphene OS. But those phones are more expensive. We do the same thing, so what they do is just fine. I looked at what they do, and it's exactly the same thing as I do. So they're fine. I'm happy to recommend Graphene, Copperhead. Copperhead and Graphene are actually originally the same. They split off, and then eFoundation. The difference is just they do it on different phones, so it's a matter of phone choice. So since I had a choice, I chose to do it on a phone that I know is affordable and good quality. But again, it's not about, you know, buying from me, not buying from me. That's not the point. The point is there's no Google identity on this whatsoever. So device fingerprinting is kind of useless on this, because which identity is it using? I don't have any credit card info. There's nothing on here that identifies me. What on here identifies me? Nothing. Verizon will only work on specific models of this Google Play. G7 Play, and I have to pre-order the Verizons, but most of them are GSM, meaning by default the phones I'm selling are GSM only phones. If you want, and that includes the Nexus 5, if you want a phone that runs on Verizon Sprint, you may have to pre-order it, and you have to wait a week because I have to buy them and then set it up for you. So if you want Verizon, you can pre-order those. Let me make a separate entry on the store so you can pre-order those, because it's hard to stock those because they don't sell as fast as the GSM phones. And you don't need to log into Google, and you don't need to log into Googled in black phone. I don't know what that means. What if your phone number is linked to Google account? Move the SIM card over, King Sing, so that it's not attached to a Google account. Move it over. Or change the phone number on the Google account to some other account, like use a burner SIM card, move the number over, and then forward it to the new number internally on the on the phone side, not at the Google end. And so they don't know it's the same number. So if you want to disconnect it from Google, go to Google and then change the number that you're using on it. There's no reason for you to maintain the same number. Will using multiple profiles in Firefox? No. No. I already answered that, Jim, at the beginning. No. The best way is to split to different browsers. As a programmer and a hacker, I'm telling you right now that in the browser threat test, I actually was able, by varying the degree of accuracy, I can still browser fingerprint even a Tor browser. So the answer is no. The answer is separate browsers. It's called browser isolation. T-Mobile works with both Motorola and Nexus 5. Yes. So T-Mobile and AT&T, Nexus 5 has LTE on it, so it works with both AT&T and T-Mobile. Nexus 5 is actually fairly advanced for an old phone, so it's still so popular. It is so difficult to buy an inexpensive Nexus 5 now. The only Nexus 5s you can buy are overpriced, so I don't want to buy them. So I only have one Nexus 5 left, 16 gigabyte, and that's it. So some of you already have, got Nexus 5 from me. I bought like so many Nexus 5s for you, and I can't find them anymore. I guess I bought the entire supply. So there are hardly any Nexus 5s to be found. I can find, occasional overpriced 16 gigabyte, and I don't want to buy them. Kindle Amazon runs great. By the way, Kindle runs great on this. One of my main users on a phone is Kindle. I'm an avid reader, so I'm always on Kindle. And there's Kindle's on there. It's one of my most important apps, Kindle. Works great. No action potato. Facebook is never going to be good on it. It's never safe to do Facebook on any phone, especially the app. If you can't help it and you really need to do Facebook on a de-Googled phone, what I might suggest is to install a Brave browser or some other browser like that, and then run only Facebook on that browser, meaning launch it to run Facebook only. Don't do anything else. Don't use the app. App is very dangerous. Kind of like WhatsApp is very dangerous as well. Redmi Note 4 or Poco phone. I don't know what that is. Buenasera Galvano. I have an old Nexus 5 SIM slot. Won't recognize the card. Yeah, they do break often, Doug. But you know what? They're actually good still as a security phone using just Wi-Fi. It's still useful. Nexus 5 is foolproof, whereas the Motorola takes knowledge to keep it safe because it works through disinformation. The Nexus 5 running Ubuntu Touch is absolutely super duper safe. At the moment, there's no safer phone. I'm going to tell you right now. It's cheap. It's ultra safe. There's kind of a limit to what you can do with it. But my main problem, again, with the Nexus 5 is the Bluetooth. But Nexus 5 is an awesome phone for safety. It really is. And it looks good. Still, for an old phone. It's a little slower now, but, it's still the same speed as a Pine phone. It actually has better Wi-Fi than a Pine phone. So if you actually compare the Pine phone and the Nexus 5, the Nexus 5 will win. And it's an older phone. Pine phone is new. Does the G7 have dual SIM slot, SD slot? Some do. It depends on the model. There are different kinds. So I have to check stock to see what I have. I don't know if I have any dual SIM ones at the moment. The one I only have one left anyway. So the one that I have right now is not a dual SIM. So I'll check the ones I get in the next few days. But the one I have at the moment is not dual SIM. But I get them. So some people say, can you give me a dual SIM one? And you have to specifically make that request. Uber only app I like, but since bars are closed, would like my Nexus 5 to have 4G. Nexus 5 has 4G. Nexus 5 is LTE. Subscribe. George, you mean you weren't subscribed before? Can you Signal in the new Pine phones? No, not. You can use Telegram on the new Pine phones. You cannot use Signal or Wicker. For Signal, you have to use the Google phone. So I actually preload Signal on this. And not that Signal is the best solution. So I have Braxme and Signal I preload. Kind of two, they have kind of two different purposes. No, Ubuntu Touch will not work on any Alcatel. I have an Alcatel. It does not work on those. What did I miss here? So yes, Marvelous Marvin, it's really amazing when you actually consider that you're walking around with this phone doing normal phone things, and let's say you pass it around to your family and they all have this. And what happens is you disappear. It's like, I can't believe it. So, what you do is you disappear from the world and then put your family all on Signal. You can even do, instead of FaceTime, you Signal for video and voice. You Signal for family. Signal's great for family. If you're going to communicate between the family members, I'd say Signal is great for that. I don't like using Signal for talking to strangers. I do not. I'd rather use Braxme for that. But for family, Signal is great because there's video, voice over IP. Signal is great for that. So I preload Signal. So that's what I recommend. So on the Ubuntu Touch phone, no. Because it's going to have to be a Linux phone. The only one that's been ported is Telegram. Somebody did port Telegram on it. I've heard Signal's compromised. It depends on what you mean by compromised. None of them are perfect, because one of the problems I have with Signal is, the metadata from your phone number. And that's why I will only use Signal with people who already know my phone number anyway and know my real name, because that's not important. If it's going to be done with strangers, no, I'm not going to use Signal. I'm not going to say, contact me in Signal, here's my phone number. Nope. I don't want my contact list and all of that to leak out. No. Have you heard any news about any Signal backdoors? No. Disappearing is more noticeable than staying gray, the dog that didn't bark. Well, not true, because you could be using Linux in a that's not disappearing. You just have no data. Why do you need to worry about that? The government can still track you. You still have a phone, so they still have a cell modem. The government still continues to track you, but Google, Apple don't. So why do you think it's necessary to be like distinguishing between hiding and disinformation? Who cares? People say, well, it's better to hide in plain sight. That's something that Kelp would say. Let's hide in plain sight. It's like, seriously, guys. So you're going to say, I'm going to go stay in Facebook so I can hide in plain sight. You're so stupid to think that. Really. Disappearing, I remember you from Periscope. Well, don't remember him from Periscope. Some are just use a shoe phone like in Get Smart. Hello, Donnie. You've been hiding, Donnie. You were so quiet. So anyway, the thing about browser device fingerprinting is with an Android 10, and Android 10 is a specific version here. With an Android 10 combined with the Google phone, running AOSP, no gaps, Android 10 with micro G on it, and F-Droid apps, open source, and all the different protections on it. I mean, it's not even, this is not rooted. This phone is not rooted. I don't need to root the phones. The phones are not rooted. So it's not like, you can go hack them and connect to them without any credentials. So they're unlocked, but they're not rooted. So, I mean, you can root them, but by default, they're not rooted. You have to give them permission to root. So I don't ship it to you rooted. So if you leave it alone, it's not rooted. And, and there's no device fingerprint. Well, there is a device fingerprint, but even that you can change. Actually, one of the settings in here is you can actually say it's a different phone. So you can actually fake and say this is the Nexus 5. So that's one of the settings in the Aurora store, so which is the spoofing app I use for the App Store. And on there, you can say, what is my device ID? And you can actually say you're an older phone. So you can actually specify a model, or maybe specify a newer phone with a different model. And what happens then is that gives out even more disinformation. Am I a toxic personality? Kelp, very, very toxic. Very toxic. You're like, like the stuff you say is just amazing sometimes. It's like, you know that, Kelp. You do it intentionally. It's your devil's advocate approach, and sometimes you just say it. You say things like, yes, I'm okay with having a checkpoint at every street corner. Do you really believe that? No, you're just saying it so you can get attention. I can't believe you actually said, well, I really want to have a checkpoint in every corner right now for my safety. Okay, go demand it then. I don't see you, making a demand that we still don't have a checkpoint in every corner. We need one now to stop terrorists. No first, last. Go ahead. Keep them entertained. So, by the way, guys, make sure to hit the like or dislike button on here so that the algorithm gets to get a feel of, your interest level. So please hit the like or dislike, whatever you feel like doing. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I am using the two phone numbers that were previously connected to my phone and Samsung Google accounts on my new Ubuntu Nexus from you and BlackBerry 900 now. It should be fine for security, right? The phone number, King Sing, is really important only for two-factor authentication. That's what Google and Apple uses. So if you play around with that a little bit, because only you know what the threat is to two-factor authentication, where you use that. And you can change that. I mean, it's not like a dead end. You can go to Google and change the current phone number and then limit the risk there. Okay? You can limit the risk. Change the phone number. I'm guessing a different OS doesn't work on BlackBerry OS Touch. No, it does not. Are you familiar with Filfo VPN router? There's a lot of VPN routers out there, and some of them are very, very bad. And some of them have DNS leaks. They must have taken some code from the internet and just ran it. This is not what I've done. I wrote my own code on here. So this is actually a pretty sophisticated device with a lot of software on it written by me. They're all open, based on open source. But, and it's open. You can look at the source code. It's all exposed. But I actually made a user interface. It's a browser interface, and all that's controllable. And it can switch to wired mode. It's a gigabit router. It can go to wired to wireless, Tor. It's all built in. It's quite a sophisticated little thing. And you don't need any more Wi-Fi router. I mean, what's the point? Because it's cheaper, then you get a bad product. This one is using a Raspberry Pi 4 at gigabit speeds. You're not going to need any more than this. I run this wired. I run my entire household through one of these in wired mode. You can run it in wireless as well, which is, if you just by yourself, then wireless is fine. But if you're going to make a trunk like mine, I run this gigabit thing here, and everything in my entire network goes through that router. Everything. What was that app that spoofs your location? You don't need that. You just need a VPN. And turn off location. I don't bother with these apps that spoof location. It's actually not accurate. You can beat that easily. You think it's spoofing location, but actually you can trick that. That's something that you can figure out. I mean, I would know how to get around that. All I would do is get your IP address and do reverse IP lookup, and I've already beaten that spoofing locations app. Does it support 10 gigabit network? No, it's a gigabit network. I would need a more expensive device to run 10 gigabits. This is not for that use. So if you want a 10 gigabit network, no. It's for home use, not for office use. 10 gigabits. Copperhead doesn't sell phones on their website. Yeah, but Copperhead is, the offshoot to Copperhead is graphene. And yes, I can sell you graphene myself, but I just don't want to because it's kind of expensive. Maybe I'll sell graphene on a Pixel. Or maybe I'll sell it to you with a Lineage OS. I don't know yet. I don't know if I want to sell Pixels. Depending on the demand, because, these are already inexpensive. This is $249. What's a Pixel going to be? $199? So if a Pixel is $199 and this is $249, would you really go for a Pixel? This phone is, at least twice the speed, maybe more of a Pixel. So I'm not sure for $50, is it worth it? Well, do you need the 10 gigabit to your device? No, Action Potato, you don't. Gigabit is fine to your device. You can split off your network to 10 gigabits, and you're not going to use 10 gigabits on any individual device. Okay? Because we're talking, I don't even know what, Wi-Fi is not going to go that fast. Wi-Fi only goes to 1 gigabyte, one gigabit. At like 100 megabits per second is the most you're going to get. So 10 gigabytes, you're talking about 1,000 megabits per second. No Wi-Fi device will do that. So the only reason you'd need 10 gigabit would be to run servers, which is not a home thing. So there's kind of no purpose to it, at least not on Wi-Fi. Thank you, Evelyn. By the way, for those of you who are new to this, I want to talk to you briefly about my platform, Brax.me. And I want to introduce you to it. It's been hard because, people are like going to sites like Discord and all of this. And it's like, why are you going to Discord? What's so special about Discord? What's a Discord? Do they have anything special for your privacy? No. Do they do any security? No. Are everything you post on there visible? Yes. Is there any kind of tracking? Obviously. And then Brax.me is a privacy-based social media where you can talk to people or have private conversations and private chats with file storage and photo storage for free. And you can do it knowing that it's pseudo-anonymous. I don't request even an email address from you unless you want to give it, or a phone number. It's up to you. You never get forced to supply any kind of information. That's why we have people there with names like No Name or Donald Trump, which I am certain is not the real Donald Trump, but he's on there, or Alex Jones, or InfoWars. Those are not the real people, but they can use whatever name they want. No one stops them. Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6 is for the implementation of WPA3, as we've discussed for a long time. So unfortunately, WPA3 is still pretty buggy. So Wi-Fi 6 has those new standards as well as, AX and some of those other speed options, which are not available on many of these devices. Certainly this does not have Wi-Fi 6. I think the new iPhones will get Wi-Fi 6. And so, at some point we'll get a lot of devices on Wi-Fi 6, but not at the moment. Where do I buy your Brax Wi-Fi router and Nexus phones? On Brax.me. You go to the app, Brax.me, you download the app, or you go to the website, Brax.me, Brax.me. You sign up, and you look for me, Rob Braxman, and you look for my profile, and the store is on my profile. So tap on my picture. It shows my profile, and on the top there it says my store. Anyone can have a store on Brax.me. So if one of you want to sell something else, you go to Brax.me and said, I want to subscribe and have a store. You can. That's an offering. So I use one of the stores on Brax.me. Anyone else can have a store if they want. And it connects to your PayPal. So with Ubuntu Nexus 5 from you and BlackBerry, only the government can track your cell phone or IP address and no other company, right? King saying no, it depends. If you use the phone number as two-factor authentication, then they will know it belongs to you. So that's why you may want to finagle with that. Change the phone number with a temporary card, use a forwarding, if that's important to you. It may not be. It depends on the risk. Galvano, oh no, that's not to me. Okay. Yeah, so Brax.me is a not only is it a pseudo-anonymous site, in which case it's different than a Signal or a Telegram, because you are never, or a WhatsApp, because you're never forced to reveal an identity. No one ever tells you on Brax that, we're going to reveal your identity. The whole app does not track IP address. There's no logs of IP. It has logs, obviously, of activity because it's what you do, but it has no idea of your IP address. There is no IP address in the database. It's open source. The database does not track your IP address. It's a very important thing that I don't have that, because I don't want somebody to have to subpoena it from me. If somebody subpoenas me and says, I want IP addresses, I can say, sure, here, and show them a blank list. I don't have anything. You can create your own groups on Brax.me, yes. Kelp doesn't want to go on Brax.me. He just wants to criticize on whatever platform I'm on, but he doesn't want to go on Brax.me. So anyway, Brax.me is a little bit different in the sense that, because it's pseudo-anonymous, nobody actually knows who you are. So if somebody says, well, I don't know if you're collecting my data. And it's like, Zoc, go to Facebook then. If you want somebody to really collect your data, stay on Facebook. So, but don't go on Brax.me and say, well, this app collects data, because I'm going to say, Zoc, you. I mean, the app is already open source. I already say I don't know anything since I don't collect it. If I didn't ask you, how am I supposed to know who you are, what you are? People change names all the time. There's some of these people here on this chat right here, and they can identify themselves. I'm not going to rat on them, but some of you changed your name on Brax, and I couldn't find you because I don't know what your new name or your old name is. Good night, Evelyn. So anyway, join us on Brax.me if you're here. And it's kind of a way to make sure that if Google ever shuts me down, then you know where to find me. Good night, SV Vet. You've been there quietly. You have nothing to fear on Brax. That's correct. Thank you, Ebb and Flow Motion. You left Periscope, Kelp? You really left Periscope? I want you. I don't want you to leave here, Kelp. I'm just inviting you elsewhere. So you can debate with people. But no, I don't want you to. Don't leave here. By the way, I'm by special request. I'm gonna play music on Periscope on Thursday next week. So I intend to do a broadcast on Periscope, playing music only on Periscope at 8 p.m. next Thursday. Thank you, Andrew. So if you change your name on Brax, sometimes I have to kind of search for you and say, well, who did I have that conversation with? Because I actually don't know who is attached to who, because there's nothing in your account that says, oh, this account is tied to that guy that, did this over there. And I don't know. I don't have any connection. So a lot of times you might think I remember every conversation, but, just to let you know. Some of you might think, oh, I bought something from him, so he has my address. The problem is, because, there's hundreds of you buying things, I actually, I don't know who I'm talking to. In general, I might know, did somebody buy something in this state? Vaguely I might remember, but not really, because it's not tied to your account. If you buy something, I ship it, and there's nothing in the records that ties your account to the order. That's me. Yes, I didn't want to say that, Andrew. I did not want to say that because I don't want to out you here. But yes, you were one. There's actually 3 of you today that got me mixed up, and I said, who was I talking to? Because 3 people went into Brax and then changed their name, and I was like, which you can do all day. You can change your name. You can go to Brax and call yourself Kelp Farming and not really be Kelp. So you have that flexibility. Somebody can steal Kelp Farming's name, but you have to talk like Kelp. The Kelp is very recognizable with his style. So if somebody steals your name on Brax, then I can't help you, Kelp, then somebody will use your identity, because that is possible. He seems more legit than Steve Gibson. You're talking about me? I have nothing against Steve Gibson, by the way. Steve Gibson is in my area, or he's in Orange County. I'm in LA, and so we're in the same general area. He's 20 miles away, 30 miles away, and the problem with Leo Laporte, more specifically, more than Steve, is that they're a bunch of shills. They really are. Steve and I come from kind of this. Steve comes from, and I come from kind of the same type of background. Although he's more like a hardware guy, whereas I was more on the application side, but kind of the same kind of background. And if you watch their channel, Security Now, they never say anything negative about Google, Apple, and Facebook. And it's like, that's incredible to me. They steal your data with Cambridge Analytica and all that, and they still will not say anything negative. It's like, what the zuck? And the reason, of course, is they're making money in advertising from those sources. So they are very careful to always be positive in corporate environments. They're not really concerned about privacy. They're saying security, and it doesn't matter. They're talking about security for the corporation. So if that's the case, then who are they for? Well, I'm clear about who I'm for. I'm for the little guy. I'm for the individual, not for the corporation. So I side with the individual. That's why corporate sponsors will not sponsor me. So my survival here on this as a channel. Hello, Kathy. My survival on this channel, financially, being able to sell my products in here, is dependent on each and every one of you. So any one of you that supports me on Patreon, any one of you that gives me a super chat here, any one of you that buys my product or buys a VPN, and some of you may already have a VPN and you still want to support me and get mine just because you want to support me for that little thing of $89 a year, is really helpful because I'm not going to get corporate sponsorship. I don't side with any of these companies that if they're going to steal data from you, I'm not going to take their side. I'm going to tell you straight out the evil in some of these companies. Like, give you an example, one of the most evil companies, and they may even put ads on my videos. I don't know. Don't ever buy anything from Symantec. Don't ever buy anything from that ducking company. That is the most evil company I know of. Not sure who's more evil, Facebook or Symantec. I mean, truly evil. Now, Google does evil things, but it's not really the kind of evil, the direct evil that's being done by Symantec and Facebook. It's like deliberate evil. So, sometimes I kind of vary with the, Google and even Apple, where sometimes they do things that are for us and sometimes they do things against us. And, it's like, it's unclear what the signal is. And certain things are good. Like you go to Google activity controls and they seem to not track you when you pause your activity, though they still track you in Google ads. So it's not 100%, but, they do something. They allow you to spoof your identity on Google. Facebook will not allow you to spoof your identity. They really want to track you, in person with a real name. They let you do that on Google. So it's like, it's evil, but if you're smart enough, they'll let you do your smart stuff to avoid that, which is kind of interesting. If Google said, we're not going to do this open source AOSP stuff anymore, and we're going to block that, and we're going to make sure that you get identified all the way, it would be a different story, but they're not doing that. And I think because they make enough money, even if the few of us stray and say we want our privacy, they allow it. They allow it. That's why you can have a fake Gmail that doesn't have a real name on it. They allow it. But some companies truly do evil. They're just there to make money off you. And one of them is Symantec. Symantec used to be very big, and now they're split off, and Symantec is a very small piece now of what they used to be. Good, because of their evil. When evil caught up with them, imagine issuing fake zucking certificates. I mean, when you do that kind of evil, when you purposely do it to make money, or you bow to some authority that says we're going to give you fake certificates for a price here. We own VeriSign, and we're going to give you fake certificates. So you can go check on HTTPS traffic on Google and Apple and everyone else. We're going to give you that. But be quiet. Pay us money and we'll be quiet. And this is evil. And now they're trying to sell you all these different products. So they can't sell you a lot of these products now. They are now a fraction of what they used to be, and I guess they're just concentrating on the antivirus. That's all that's left. Their enterprise is gone. Enterprise business is gone. It went to Broadcom. They still have, Lovelock. Zucking Lovelock. They still have that. Why? I don't know. That's not a big scam. Now it's a scam with Lovelock and Morton Salt antivirus. Like, suck. So that's my difference with other broadcasters that seem to not take a side with these corporate guys that are plainly evil. Plainly. And they don't take a side and say, hey, you're evil. Okay? So when I see evil and I can prove it, I'd say, Zuck, you. Kathy, come on. We already know. Lovelock. Morton Salt antivirus. 42 plus years. What is 42 plus years? Remember when VeriSign and all of those were separate? Then you tried to track down all those websites and articles. Such fun, romantic. Cosmic Rose, you remember even from Periscope days. Yep, you see, the reason I don't have to worry about romantic anymore, Cosmic Rose, is because they got split up. Their evil already got sliced up. So, you can't even call them evil anymore because there's nothing left of them. The semantic is now just the antivirus and Lovelock. So, yeah, I don't need to get concerned with them anymore. They're a much smaller company. They were kind of a dangerous company back then. Very dangerous. Does your Zuckbook t-shirt come in 10XXL size? Action Potato? No. I think my Zuckbook t-shirt is only in XL and L and a woman's medium. That's all I have. Nothing else. I don't have any more sizes. McAfee antivirus. Kathy, McAfee antivirus. By the way, John McAfee, ask John McAfee, would you recommend your McAfee antivirus? And he'll say, hell no. How do I defeat evil? By telling you, Kelp, and speaking out, not by being quiet about it. So I talked about them for years, and, now they're gone. Because of me, probably not, but, I was going to speak out, and everyone's going to speak out until somebody learn about their evil doings, and they're gone. So now will Broadcom, which took the big chunk of their business, going to do evil things? I don't know. Broadcom can be capable of doing evil things on their chips that they include on your computer, on your phone. Do you think it's easier to change my phone numbers for my Ubuntu Nexus BlackBerry through my phone numbers instead of security purposes? King saying it depends on, who you want to call you. So for convenience, you may want your phone number to be the same so your friends can call you. In which case, then just go change the two-factor authentication on those platforms, because you can use Google Authenticator and not use a phone. There's alternatives. You can use a YubiKey, you can use Google Authenticator rather than use a phone. Okay, so just have some separation. That's all I'm saying. And you can change phone number. You're able to change your phone number in two-factor authentication. It doesn't have to be permanent. The John McAfee Action Potato, he said no. And I'm not a court of law. I'm not here to start guessing that. He said no. Do you ever hear from iSocialFit? I'm not on Periscope. He doesn't go to YouTube. I guess YouTube is too evil for iSocialFit. iSocialFit is from Facebook. He used to spy on me every night. Jack O'Neill, might your VPN be less vulnerable to exploits described in latest Vault release? I don't know what the latest Vault release. I'm not sure. There's a new Vault release? I mean, WikiLeaks? What is this new Vault release? I'm not familiar with any new Vault release. Did I miss something in recent times that I didn't know about? Or you're talking about an old Vault release that just got explained better? Swallow a bunch of clean your systems out. GIMP program and Vistaprint it. If he doesn't have your shirt size. So you're going to go illegally steal my design and put it on your thing? Yes, what? I don't know what yes means there, Jack, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what the exploit is. A lot of the exploits that relate to the VPN before isn't really an exploit that should concern most people, because the attack has to be on your own network, which is not really a concern here. We're just a bunch of wannabe hackers. You should mess with me, First Last. Yes, you should not mess with me. There are actually people have actually challenged me and have threatened me and did all that on Periscope, and and when I get my mind to it, and if I want to really find out things about you, then I can. So I'm very skilled with that, because I know what mistakes people make, and I can find out your mistakes in the history of your time on the internet, and I will be the best at it. John McAfee was very gracious. He was a very nice person to interview. He actually was a very pleasant person. He was very respectful, which I don't normally expect that. Typically if somebody's famous, then you expect them to act like in a kind of a diva kind of way. And he, yes, Kathy, it's on Medium. It's on Twitter. I posted the link there. So it's in one of my tweets. So I interviewed John McAfee, but the recording failed because of the way I use Skype. So I couldn't show him in person. So I wrote it as a feature piece. So it's an article on Medium. Let me ask you about that. If these companies are evil, why not ply your skills at stopping them? How am I going to stop them, Kelp, other than to speak? That's what I do here. I do use my skills to stop them by letting you know. If you want to say I should hack them, you do know that's illegal, Kelp. I can't do that. I can't hack them. I can't threaten them. I can only tell you so you all know they're doing evil. Careful there, First Last, that got blocked by YouTube. Be careful with comments of that nature. They don't like that. So anyway, yes. So I expose third parties, large companies that are doing things that are against you. For example, something that I mentioned in my video on cybersecurity versus privacy. The interest of a corporation, if you're in, watching like Security Now, that channel, and that's an old channel on YouTube, and I'm growing so fast. I'm, hopefully we'll overtake them at some point here. I've only been here 1 year, and it's this channel's doing great for 1 year. But the thing about cybersecurity is, when a corporation wants to implement cybersecurity, it's often at the cost of personal privacy, because a corporation wants to spy on every employee and see what they're doing on the internet. If you're going on Facebook, they want to know what you're saying on Facebook, even though you're on HTTPS. They want to see every traffic. If you're sending out a secret email, they want to know that. If you're going to the office and then tunneling through a VPN, they want to stop that. They want to do all these things because they know that they want to stop leakage of data in a way that they don't know about. They want to know everything. Well, you could have a legit reason for using the network to go to your bank, to go into Facebook or doing any of that, and they might say, well, you're doing that on company hours. and they don't want you to do that. So yes, and they don't want you to install any software on your computer. Yes, I understand all that. But if they lend you a computer you take home, that computer is going to be spying on you. Okay, so be very clear on this. Hit the like button. Only 97 now. No, it's only 78. Only 78 people hit like. So I guess anyway, that's the difference between me and what I talk about. Sometimes people ask me why I don't say too much negative things about YouTube. There are certain things about YouTube that really bother me. And certain things, though I don't like it, has not affected me so much. So unfortunately, I do need YouTube, and YouTube is very important to getting my message across. So it's very successful at getting my message across, in which case then I'm going to try to be here as long as I can. But I don't know if you heard about the recent events, with YouTube making decisions saying that if you speak out against the World Health Organization, then they can block they can basically remove your video. I mean, wow. So if somebody in the World Health Organization says something that you don't agree with, you better keep it to yourself, because YouTube will censor that. So if you feel like, certain videos of mine get censored here, which some do, like when I talked about contact tracing, go to library, LBRY. So you can't censor it on library. So I'm on both platforms. I am now in the top number 88, I think. I'm in the top out of 120,000 creators on library. I am now number 88. And I've only been there for a month and a half. So for a month and a half to be number 88 on the list, and I just passed a major YouTube channels. Channels are big on YouTube, like with millions of subscribers, and I'm already past them on library, because I don't need millions on library. And so it's really fantastic that I'm getting views. In fact, I think I got a good number of views on library. I think I got like 6,000 views in the last month, and 2,500 followers in a month. I mean, that's more than I gain here on YouTube. Well, not the views, but even the advertising income is equal now between library and YouTube. And YouTube is 10 to 15 times larger in terms of my presence here on YouTube. YouTube is 10 to 15 times larger, but the revenue is equal. So amazing. Which isn't saying much, because I make $100 on YouTube. Yes, Andrew, on YouTube, my advertising revenue from YouTube is about $150. So, if you think I'm getting rich from this, no. So, support comes from supporting me on Patreon, supporting me on by buying products that benefit you. I make these products for you, and that is what keeps this channel going. It's not going to come from advertising dollars from YouTube. So it's not even worth it. I mean, $150. That's all I make from YouTube. $150. PewDiePie makes, millions. I make $150. So, but this channel is going to succeed because fortunately I can do things. I make things. I have skills, so I can make these things. So, and I know you need these. So I know you need these routers. I know you need these phones. These are the two hottest sellers here. I sell a lot of these. Hard to keep stock now because of COVID. I can't. It's hard to keep stock. You know, I can only buy a few and then they disappear so fast. So it's hard keeping up. But you're helping me. I'm gonna survive soon here. $150 a day, a month, Kathy, a month. What do you mean a day? A month. What do you spend $150 on? Pay for the servers on BraxMe, which pays for one server. I have many servers. So, you know, I have to pay for the servers that run BraxMe. Nobody pays for that but me. So, that pre-order for G7 is coming through on Friday. I have Andrew. I have several phones coming. So I had the 3 phones left today that just arrived, and I already sold, like, from pre-order. I already sold 3 of them, and phones are arriving every day. They're arriving tomorrow. They're arriving Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I'm going to get, you know, hopefully phones every day, and I'm trying to, you know, get a stock, but it's really hard because they fly off the shelf so fast. Hello, Daniel. Do you have VPN routers for sales? Yes, I have. Tomorrow, I think I'll get. I think I already sold the last one today that I have right now, but I think I'll have stock tomorrow. So yes, you can pre-order and it'll be available in you know, by Monday. So you can order one now. So I'll have stock ready on the next shipping day. But the ones I have now have already been sold. So just discovered this channel. Cody, hello Cody, just discovered this channel. I assume the accuracy of Wi-Fi triangulation depends on how many towers. There's no towers in Wi-Fi triangulation. Random, a none. Wi-Fi triangulation is based on Wi-Fi routers. Cell tower triangulation is something else, which is only a feature of the cell companies, and it's not that accurate. Cell tower triangulation is very vague tracking. It's, you know, it tracks you within like a half a mile area or something. Okay, that's not the kind of tracking we're talking about. Wi-Fi triangulation is 6 feet. And that does not come from the cell phone. It comes from the Wi-Fi adapter. Did you see the videos of Librem Bluetooth? I don't have a Librem 5 yet. I only have a Pine phone. I don't have a Pine phone. I mean, you know, I don't know why, guys, but to be honest with you, these things are flying from my store. I can't keep up with them. I must be the biggest buyer of this phone on the internet. I mean, I buy them, you know, I build like several of these a day. I mean, they go so fast. Because they're very inexpensive. I'm selling it for a very inexpensive price. So they're going very, very fast. And people are like really liking them. So some people are buying, you know, 3, 4 of them for their family. They're like replacing all the phones. And for this price, it's, you know, for one iPhone, you can get 4 of these. 4 of these for one iPhone. I mean, you have to wonder about that. If you're going to buy an iPhone every year, then you might say, maybe I'll just buy 4 of these and save the money I spent on an iPhone. I like the thumbs. Hit the thumbs always. Thank you, First Last. It's now up to 83 likes. That's it. Hundreds of people have been here. Hundreds of you have been here, and only 83 of you like it. I hope you subscribe to my channel if you're just coming in from, you know, from a random feed or suggested video. Did you see? What did I miss here? What was your final word on 5G? You mean you didn't watch my video? 5G has its own. I did several, even a Periscope, multi-hour talk about 5G. From a privacy point of view, I hate 5G. It'll identify you to inches. You can do that, King Singh, but like I said, you can just change the number on Google. Why change the phone numbers for your friend? Do it in reverse. Change the number on Google. You're kind of hitting it in the hard way. What ports are on those flying phones? I'm looking for something I can hook up an adapter hub and eventually my Ethernet. Is that possible? What are you trying to do, Cosmic Rose? You should maybe be thinking about a Pine phone instead of that. If you're going to do wired, I mean, that's not what a phone is for. If you're going to do wired, you should use a Pine phone, because that allows that. The likes are not synced. It's 87 at the moment. I see it faster than you. Are there many children's games for Moto G7 Play? It's standard Android, so all the standard stuff will be on here. But, Daniel, you cannot buy games. Nothing can be paid for. Everything has to be free. There's no store. You got to understand the limitation of a Google phone. There is no app store you can buy. So whatever you get cannot be a paid app. You can't pay for anything. Okay? So if you, can you download them? Yes. Will they work? Yeah. Can you do in-app purchases? No. Okay? So just want to make that clear. What is the main appeal of the Pine phone for you? Why are people excited about this? Honest. Cody, a Pine phone is Linux. Now, the safest phone is Linux because you have full control over it rather than all the garbage that Google puts on a phone and all the OEM blobs that all the OEMs put on a phone that can spy on you. When we do a Google phone, it's still going to Google. It's still doing things with Google. There's still telemetry, notifications, and services and all that has to do with Google and identifying you. The only thing we're doing on the Google phone is doing this information by faking your identity. So this phone still thinks it's on the apps. So I'm running Waze on here. Waze still thinks it's running on a Google phone. But the identity that Waze thinks it has is not the right identity since it's not me. Now, that is not the same with a Linux phone. A Linux phone is completely a blank slate. There's no one there. There's no connection with any company. Nobody runs anything on Linux. Whatever you put as a program there, that's it. There are no mysteries. There's no home base. There's no central authority. There's nothing. So I write programs, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to play with a Pine phone, is because I want to write my own programs, which I did. But I'm still waiting for the operating system to become steady. Then I'm porting my cybersecurity software on a Pine phone in a Librem 5 when it's stable. It may be stable enough now. It's going to be stable very, very soon, and maybe in the next week or so. And then, in which case, then I'll start work and start putting my app on there, because it will run on it likely with just some packaging, because it's both the Pine phone and the Librem 5 support something called GNOME or GNOME. So since it supports that, that's what my app was written in, and I'm gonna put that on there, and then you can run cybersecurity things like on a network using a Pine phone, which is going to be awesome because you don't need a big laptop to do that. You can just put on a phone and do a quick security check, which I love to have handy. It's very hard to do it right now. I got to use a computer for it. I used an alias Atlas when I drove to Alaska. I wish the Pine phone came in the same size as the Nexus 5 from you. A better choice for me now. The LG N5 Ubuntu is great. Yeah, and the problem, King Sing, is they have better miniaturization with the Android phones because it's mass produced. It's harder to do on the custom phone. So the Librem 5 is huge. If you've seen a Librem 5, I mean, it's a big, giant phone. The Librem 5 is like double the thickness of this, more than double the thickness of this. It's a big phone. So, is it any faster? No, this is a lot faster than a Librem 5. But, you can program it in Linux, and I can write programs and no one's going to stop me. There's no app store to say, oh, you can't install on the Librem 5. The app store is going to stop you. No one's going to stop me. I can run all these cybersecurity apps on it, hacking apps, whatever apps I want to put on a Pine phone or a Librem 5. I can. That's why it's awesome. Device fingerprinting doesn't exist. Google ID, there's no Google ID on a Linux. What does that mean? I live in the middle of nowhere with a few neighbors, not very good internet signal. So could they use Wi-Fi triangulation to track me as I move around in this area? If you don't have many neighbors, you'll be tracked by your own Wi-Fis. So how many Wi-Fi routers do you have? They need at least 2 to triangulate. So if you don't want to be triangulated and the neighbors are too far away, then just have one Wi-Fi or go wired. Then you'll disappear from triangulation. Then it will use GPS, which will only work outside. But it doesn't matter anyway. If you're using a de-Googled phone, the location can be turned off in settings. So if you de-Google it, it doesn't send location continuously like it does when it's a Google phone or an iPhone. What data telemetry does your motor phone send to Google, and do they fake a Google ID? Exactly, Jack O'Neill. One thing that stops is, like I said, Wi-Fi scanning stops. Wi-Fi scanning is the 24/7 location tracking permissionless that occurs on the phone. That stops, which is a major thing. On top of that, then all of the other Google identifiers are all spoofed. So, spoofed identity. Obviously, you never log into the phone. Now, do you need anything more than that? Yes, you need a VPN. So you need a VPN, then this bit of VPN and this, you're all set. Because that blocks out anything that can apply to you, especially if you have a new phone number on it. And I preload a lot of, very, very useful apps on it already. So you get and you can run Waze, like I said. I mean, I do run Waze on this. And you can run a lot of Google kinds of apps, but if you choose not to run Google apps, I don't install them with any. When I ship it to you, there are no Google apps on it, so there's no telemetry since there's nothing Google about it. I only install Braxme and Signal, so it's very limited. King Sing, the form factor, I kind of like it Nexus 5 is great too, but this is a little bigger. There's more real estate, even though it's only slightly bigger than the Nexus 5. But I don't really like it much bigger than this. The G7 is much bigger. The G7 is a bigger phone. What happens when the 3 days and 3 nights go out? We know this is coming, and I know you've done videos on it as well. Might want to address. What happens when the 3 days and 3 nights go out? What are we talking about? Some online maps expire. Oh, okay. I don't know what you're talking about there. So anyway, from my point of view as I've been using this for a few months now. For a couple of months. This Moto G7 Play, and I'm very happy with it. There's some bugs still, some minor things, and slight pain in the butt, but nothing. It's everything that I need to work on. It works, and it runs very well. So nothing earth-shattering. I mean, I don't really use Fingerprint, so that doesn't really bug me. I wasn't going to use it anyway. One of the reasons I don't want to use Fingerprint is because the government might demand you open your phone with a fingerprint. So since it's biometric, I think that was handled in court in the U.S. But if you travel to a different country, they can still force you to do biometrics on it. And so I'm not interested in fingerprint. So I know for sure. So anyway, let me talk to you about some new videos I'm going to come up with next week. I'm going to teach you something next week. It's going to be fun. It's how we use GPG. So anybody know what GPG is? So a lot of you heard of PGP and know you can use that in email. Hello, Russ. But I'm going to show you some quick uses of GPG and without an app. And somebody asked me that question, and it was kind of an interesting question, is using GPG on a command line and seeing if that could be useful. And so as I was playing with that, I said, this is an interesting topic, and it's kind of a way to pass secret messages. You can pass secret messages in any context, and you don't need any app. And that's what we're gonna talk about. I'm gonna make a fun video on it, and it's gonna be next week. GPG. You don't know what it is. Good that you don't know, so that I'll teach you. So GPG. So that's something that you can use on your computer and on the phone, but mostly you can even use it on a computer. Your info is always invaluable. What do you think of a YubiKey? I have a video about YubiKey, but to be honest with you, I have a YubiKey and I pretty much haven't used it in a while. It's just too inconvenient for me. For the few times I'm going to use it, I'm going to use Authy. So I've been using Authy, not YubiKey. YubiKey is kind of tied to the form factor. So often you can't use it. So because of the form factor. So if I'm going to have that limitation, I might as well use a phone, which I always have. Okay, and you can use Authy on the Google phone as well as on an iPhone. Is this where you hide information in photos? No, GPG. No, it's a use of encryption. Something you can use anywhere. You can pass a secret message on any platform. You don't need. Some people say, I want end-to-end encryption. This, that. I want my email to be safe. Email is obviously one of the biggest uses of this, but it doesn't have to be. You can use it in email, but it doesn't have to be. It can be used for so many different things. In any context, like you can make a public post somewhere and put the secret code in there, and no one will understand what you just posted, but to somebody who knows what you posted, it will be very, very informative. And that's what I want to show you. I mean, some of you can put your encrypted conversation right here on live chat, and only the people that know what you're doing will understand what the conversation is about. So it's kind of fun stuff. So it's something that it's an application of something that is very common now, but it's kind of a side application of it. And it's so vague, nobody ever talks about it, and it's nobody ever talks about it, but it's there's some interesting applications of it. I saw my raw messages from Fastmail and I didn't like it. I'll be switching email service soon. Is this a pro biometrics discussion? Is this a pro biometrics discussion? Pro? I am not pro biometrics. I hope you address this. Amazon uses this. This has nothing to do with Amazon. Nothing to do with Amazon. This is about you. Okay. So we're going to talk about this and how you can use it, and then maybe we'll have among ourselves have increased use. I'm going to promote using this a lot, because it doesn't matter what platform you use. You're saying, well, I don't trust this platform or that platform, but sometimes you want to pass a secret and you don't trust the platform. Let's say you're on some public chat and somebody says, well, I need a password to go here. And you say, sure, here's the password. And you pass an encrypted password. Kind of cool. How about a secret link? On social media, somebody says, I want to see a link to this. And you say, sure, I'll give you a link. And no one else can see the link but the person you're talking to. It's kind of cool. When you see it, it's like so basic, and it's like, why do people not use it for this? Anyway, that's coming. And IP address shown, even though had VPN and nothing is encrypted. Of course, nothing is encrypted. It's email. Email's not encrypted unless you use PGP. Could you have message in the picture behind host? Could you have message in the picture? That's a hack. Yes, you can do that. It's actually a very common hack, but that's a hack. Would it be better to have an encrypted message behind a picture? An encrypted message. Yikes, we'll have to check Fastmail. I did Cosmic. It was a great video. How fun is PGP? No. We're not going to be talking about PGP. PGP is so, difficult. We're going to use GPG. GPG. I'm a newbie in all this. Sorry, learning. No, you're not. You're fine. So we're gonna teach you that, and I'll tell you how to integrate it to email and use it outside of email. And so that's going to come next week. I think it's kind of a fun topic. So I want to transition and show you something, really important that we can use in everyday use. Because some of you can pass me a secret message and on any platform, because some of you say, well, I want to tell you something, but I can only talk to you on Twitter. And, well, I'm not going to respond to you on Twitter in the open, but if you send me an encrypted message on Twitter, I might be okay with that, like in DM. If you pass me an encrypted message on Twitter, I might be able to, respond to that. But if you just leave it on the open, the answer is no. So that's next in my library to watch on YouTube. Every time I kiss normies off, the next day I get robocalls. Is there a connection? I don't know. I don't know. There may be other things you're doing. The thing is, you could be doing 10 things, and one of them is causing the RoboCop call, and that you're correlating into something else. So, without knowledge, some people don't analyze what they do, and they're actually getting RoboCop calls from a completely different source. Maybe it's coming from Facebook. Okay, guys. So thank you for watching, and I'll work on that video next, and hopefully you'll get it early in the week, and it will be hopefully be fun. So anyway, I'm gonna be getting these. So if these run out of stock in the store, immediately, because they kind of go so fast. If you're not first in there, it runs out of stock. I am getting these in stock almost every day. So check in daily. So, I ordered a lot of them. So they're going to come in all the way till next week. So I'm going to get several a day all the way to next week, because I got to find them where I can find them. And it's many, many sources from all over the country. So I might get them. And then I'm also getting this in stock slowly. It's kind of, you order from Amazon and they say it will be delivered in 3 weeks. Then suddenly they delivered it in a week. So I don't really know. So I'm going to be ordering more of these as well. So they kind of like quickly go out of stock. So anyway, thank you guys. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, King Singh. And awesome to have you here tonight, even though I didn't have any adult beverages. Thank you, James. See you guys later. Good night.